I actually fell in love with letter form with the expectation that I would get to draw letter form, starting to sketch that, experiencing with lettering and getting how the things should go.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Calligraphy Masters podcast. I'm your host, Milenis, and today I'm excited because I have a very interesting guest. For the first time, I met her like a few weeks ago when I was in Berlin. Her name is Martina. She's an author of The Golden Secrets of Lettering. In general, what she does is related to lettering. So everything that we will be speaking about today, it's about lettering. So please welcome to the podcast, Martina Flor. Is this correctly, Flor?
Martina Flor.
Hi, Martina. How are you doing?
Hi, Milen. Thank you so much for having me on Calligraphy Masters. I'm excited to talk to you today.
The pleasure is mine. For those of you, like you probably don't know, but yeah, last week I was a guest on her podcast. So we decided to switch it up this week. And yeah, let's jump straight into it. As I said, you're more of a lettering artist, not so much you don't have anything to do with calligraphy, right?
Well, actually, I always say that every smart lettering artist has a set of calligraphy brushes in their toolbox. And I do have mine, if you see in the back, for those that are watching on YouTube. And on my podcast, we were nerding about the different calligraphy tools and all that stuff. And actually, I learned through my training as in letter design, I learned a lot of calligraphy. I've done a lot of calligraphy, and I think it's incredibly useful for creating lettering if it's not something that you definitely need. I mean, I do believe that is something that you need to at least learn and understand how it works in order to create letter forms. So I don't do calligraphy normally for my day-to-day job, but I do have an understanding of calligraphy, and I've done a fair amount of calligraphy in my life.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about how did you get interested in lettering?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it wasn't a straight line, but if I have to think back, so I'm a graphic designer, and I remember that I studied graphic design, and I finished my university studies early on in my life, and I started working early on. So when I was, I don't know, 23 or 24 years old, I was already high up in the ladder of graphic design. I was a creative director at an agency, and I was, I wasn't doing much creative work. I was doing more administrative work. I was in meetings with clients and spending my day in my inbox. And I remember that at that time, I still wanted to have creativity in my life. So I remember that I was coming back from my day job and sitting down to draw, and I would draw until I would go to sleep. And at some point I decided that this is what I wanted to do. And I started finding ways of doing that. I was also doing, together with illustration, I was kind of drawing letter forms. I created my first logotype as an illustrator, which when I look at it nowadays, I think like, oh my God, what was I thinking? But, it's one of those things that you still appreciate, because they were my first attempts to do lettering. And at some point I decided to just double down on that and to go abroad to study. And I invested all of my savings in just doing that. I'm from Argentina originally. So for me, that was a big investment just to go study somewhere else. And and when I signed up for that program, which was the type design program, I felt I found the perfect marriage of two things that I really loved, which was like design and illustration, because creating letter forms is the perfect combination of those two things. First, it has a system. There is a system to it, which, has a lot to do with design, and there are rules. And on the other hand, it's very creative. You can draw a letter form in any way you want, as long as it's readable. So I found that this marriage very well suited for me, and this is where I actually fell in love with letter forms, and I didn't stop since then. Since then, that 1 year studying letter design really changed everything for me. It was a pivotal moment in my life. Like, I decided, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm gonna go all in. And I just shifted career paths, and I became a lettering artist.
So you left the graphic designer like adult?
Yeah, exactly. So
How many years ago?
well, that was, I mean, I moved to the Netherlands to study letter design in 2008.
Okay.
2009, sorry. And then after that year, I moved to Berlin, and I started my studio in lettering and custom typography. Yeah.
Praatje Netherlands?
But the what?
I,
You spoke to me in Dutch, right?
yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
good. No, I don't speak any Dutch. I do speak German,
Okay.
but of course, I lived here. I have been living here for over 13 years, and I only had like 1 year experience in the Hague, which is where I studied in the Netherlands.
Oh,
But
I used to live in the Hague.
seriously,
Yeah,
amazing.
I lived there like 2 years. I was very young. I was like 13, 14, but yeah, this is where I live. And that's why I know some, like, I used to speak it perfectly, but I haven't spoken in like more than 17 years. So,
That's amazing. Okay, that's really cool. I mean, I never even tried to learn Dutch, because I knew that I was going to stay there for a short time. But I mean, The Hague is such an interesting place to live. For me, it was, coming from Buenos Aires. I'm from Buenos Aires, which is the capital of Argentina, which is in South America. For those that don't know, Buenos Aires is a huge city, and it's like wild. It's always awake. And when I moved to The Hague, it was like super quiet. It was like living in a little town that was next to the beach and had really bad weather.
this is actually where I learned to swim because, I never, like, I've seen my father twice in my life, and usually the kids are, their fathers teach them how to swim. And when I was living in Holland and we were going to the beach, I just started watching people how they swim, and this is actually how I learned to swim.
That's so good. Yeah, I mean, there is a tradition in the Netherlands, and then we can switch subjects if you want. But there's a tradition in The Hague where I think in New Year's Eve or something, they go to the beach
Yes.
and they dive into the water. And I did this. Like, I remember I went on my own, alone. I went in with all this bunch of strangers into the water, and you get a Unox can, which is like a soup in the Netherlands. It's very well known soup, and I have a picture like me holding my prize of like a soup can after diving into like the minus, I don't know how many degrees ocean. Yeah.
How exactly did you learn lettering? Are you self-taught? Did you use some books? Did you attended some workshop?
Yeah, well, so I moved to the Netherlands, to The Hague, and I signed up I got accepted in a incredible type design course. For those that are listening, type design is not exactly lettering. Type design is about designing fonts, which is a very technical discipline. And I signed up for this course with the expectation that I would get to draw letter forms. And and this is a course that accepts only 11 people per year. So I was so lucky to get in. And yes, and during that year, I learned everything about letter forms and creating typefaces. And it's like a full-time course. So for a year, you're kind of like working as a student, essentially, and you attend classes every day, and you have to work after time. So that created an amazing foundation in letter forms. This was the year where I experienced creating letter forms in a lot of different ways. I did a lot of calligraphy. I also used programming to create letter forms. I did a lot of different stuff. And yes, and afterwards, after that experience, in the class, I remember that I was one of the most kind of like artsy ones, in the sense of like my final project, my final thesis, my typeface was a very flamboyant typeface. It was the only script typeface in the course. So script typeface, for those that are watching and listening, are those typefaces that are connected. They're based or inspired in calligraphy or handwriting, and yeah, in type design, these are called script typefaces. And I was the only one creating something like this. So that was super wild in the group. And after I finished that program, I thought, okay, I want to do something in relation to this. I'm not sure I see myself creating text typefaces, or yeah, text or fonts to be used in text. But it may be something that is a bit more expressive.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved to Berlin, I took an internship in a font design bureau office from Lucas de Groot, which is a very well-known type designer worldwide. And that experience was amazing, because for me it was like, okay, if this is working as a type designer, this is exactly what I don't want to do. And after that experience, or throughout this experience, I started shaping my own way of doing things, which is like, using typography or letter forms in combination with illustration in a way for the purpose of telling stories. And this is what I ended up doing, right? So I shaped a little bit my career, following a little bit my gut, using my skills, which were in letter design at that time, but also following a little bit my interests. Okay, I want to do letter forms. I want to create letter forms, but how can I use them in a way that allows me to express myself creatively? And this is where I found lettering, which at that time, it wasn't even called lettering. At that time, it was like nothing. Like there was no lettering discipline. You wouldn't Google, I mean, if you Google lettering, you'll find very few things, like perhaps Roman inscriptions or things like this. But it's not what it is nowadays.
I just want to make a quick disclaimer for those of you who are beginners, or for those of you who don't know so much about calligraphy and lettering, because I see often online people don't know. If you don't know what's the difference between calligraphy and lettering, calligraphy, it's being written, while lettering, it's being drawn. That's the whole difference. I know some people call certain stuff of calligraphy lettering in the other way. This is the main difference. Calligraphy is being written and hand lettering is being drawn. There is some stuff which is done and people would say this is calligraphy, but calligraphy is being written. If you write some letters and then go back to do some details, this is again lettering. Were there some lettering artists at this time that you knew, that you were following, that were inspiring you?
If there were any lettering artists that I was following at that time, well, I mean, for sure, I remember that someone that has been in the industry for a long time is Ken Barber. And while I was, so for those that are listening and watching, Ken Barber is a lettering artist. He is amazing. He has worked for House Industries, which is a font foundry, a very well-known American font foundry that has a very specific style, very interesting style. And yeah, and he was, I remember that when I was studying in this one-year course in The Hague in the Netherlands, he came to teach a workshop in the program. And I remember that was also a pivotal moment for me, because that was the one time where I said, like, I want to do what he does. From all the teachers that I have had in that year, which they were all great and all were doing amazing stuff, he was the one where I felt myself identify with, right? I thought, like, I want to be in his shoes, because the things that he showed us, the techniques that he taught us, they were totally in the line of what felt right for me in the world of letter forms, right? So definitely he was the first. I think everybody has someone. You were telling me the other day that you remember that moment in my podcast you remember that moment when you watched that video and you said like, I want to do what this guy is doing? Well, for me, that moment was this workshop with Ken Barber. And I think everybody has this moment in their lives and creative lives, or they saw someone, or they attended a talk, or they watched a video and they felt that spark. I call it the spark because that is a moment where you realize like, wow, that really hit me. I want to know more. I want to do this. And yeah, and then afterwards, as I said, lettering wasn't a scene yet. Right nowadays, the lettering has a great big scene, which I love. But at that time, the lettering industry wasn't a lettering industry. So I remember that Jessica Hirsch was there, which is also an American lettering artist. The guys of Friends of Type, Eric Marinovich, they were already rising. So it seemed that in different parts of the world, I was in Europe, they were in the US. So in different parts of the world, there were people like rising with this new interest of typography and lettering. And yes, so I remember I was watching what they were doing at the time. Yeah, and they were absolutely inspiring also. And I think they also had, they had met at some point, or they were coming or emerging from a certain community, so they knew one another. And I feel that it was a kickstarting moment for the lettering scene as it is today.
You said this workshop with Ken like started the spark, but was this the moment that you knew this is what you want to do for the rest of your life, or this came later in life?
Yes, I think that I felt that this was definitely something I wanted to do. Now, I don't know if I want to do anything for the rest of my life. So at that, seriously, I do feel that as a creative, you have different interests, and the interests will change throughout life. Gladly for me, lettering keeps and letter design keeps expanding more and more. I feel that it's a world that from the outside seems really small and really niche, but once you get into it, it's huge. It's like never ending. And I think you may feel the same with calligraphy. There's so many, from the outside, it seems like writing letters. That's it. That's all you do. But when you get into that world, you discover all these different tools and how the pressure has an impact on the imprint, and, the inks and the papers. And there's a world of stuff that you continue discovering. And I feel the same happens with lettering. So going back to your question, whether I wanted to do this, I realized I wanted to do this for my entire life. I thought that moment was really pivotal in the sense that I could see something that I want to pursue. I think that sometimes is really, you feel really lost when you don't see a clear picture of where you're going. But when you have a model, when you have someone to look after, then in the way of getting there, you find your own way. In the way of becoming Ken Barber, for me, I became my own version of Martina Flor, but that having that model was really incredibly inspiring, and it made me move forward and finally finding my own identity and my own style as a lettering artist. So I think for those that are listening and that are starting, or even for those that are more advanced, having someone to look forward to, or to look to be inspired by, I think is incredibly helpful. I think in the path of becoming that person, you will end up becoming more of your own self. Yeah, so I think it's really important to have those sort of role models when it comes to the work you do. So for me, Ken Barber was that role model. Also, Louise Philly, I want to mention her because she is actually the mother of all of us, I would say. even of Ken Barber. Luis Fili is an Italian designer who works in the United States. She founded a studio called Luis Fili. In fact, I've been in touch with her in the last weeks because I invited her to teach in my lettering program. And she said yes. So I'm gonna have her as a lecturer in the program. But she is, I would say, like the mother of the lettering scene. Yeah.
What I'm curious about, just a sec. What I'm curious is, again, about Canon, about the workshop, because I know how a calligraphy workshop goes on. I've attended some, I'm giving workshops myself, and pretty much I know the structure, how it goes with calligraphy. You know, we have specific tools, we have certain rules, but I'm curious, what do you teach or learn in a lettering workshop? Like, since it's drawing, do you learn specific lettering style of the letters, or like I really don't know how goes one lettering workshop and what it's about.
That's such an interesting question. I never had to answer this question, and I'm glad to do that for you. So I think that what I personally start teaching in a workshop is to provide some foundations. I think that something really interesting about the world of letter forms is that there is a system to it. There is a logic to it. And that logic is very, I have a system to explain that logic that is very simple. I can show it here if you are interested.
Of course.
So I think something really important to learn is this principle, which is the fact that all letter forms can fit in these different in these three different groups of simple shapes, right? So if the square shape is an H, you can also group the F, the E, the I in this group. The group of the rounded letter forms is the O, the Q, the C, and the group of the triangular letter forms is the A, the V, the W, right? So every single letter can be grouped under one of these simple shapes, right? And from that DNA, in fact, in my website, you can go download it for free on, I think, martinaflor.com/free resources. I have the exact template that I just showed you, where you can see, you know, how letter forms are organized within these three groups. And what is great about this logic is that once you have, you know, once you have an O, once you draw an O, you have enough information to draw a C and a Q. And once you draw an H, you have enough information to draw an I or an L or an E. The same happens with the group of the triangular letter forms, right? And all this information, all this DNA, what I call the DNA of letter forms, you can then combine to create new letter forms. So for instance, to create a D, you combine the information of the group of the rectangular letters with information of the group of the rounded letters, and you form a D, right?
Yeah.
So I will first start there, just for them to get into the mind space of like, okay, this is a system, and all I need is to hack this system, to find, you know, how that system works for me. Then I would initially start by showing like the 3 steps that I use to create a lettering, which is like, first decide what is it that I want to draw. So decide a briefing for myself. I want to create a postcard. I want to create a poster. I want to create a book cover. And what is the text that I'm going to illustrate, which is what most people struggle with. Most people like spend a lot of time thinking like, just what is the thing that they are going to draw, which I think for calligraphy is the same, right? What is the thing that I'm going to practice with or create? Yeah. In fact, I created a tool that is called letteringmaker.com, where you get you get like a briefing for a lettering piece. You can just check it out. It's on letteringmaker.com. So it's a brief generator for a lettering piece, essentially, and it's free to use. You can just go there and create your own lettering brief. So I would start by first thinking, okay, what is it that I want to, so, and this is one of the most beloved tools that I have put out there.
I'm just messing.
So this is one of the most beloved tools. So at the top you have beginner, advanced, and pro. And in each different level, you will get a different set of variables. So you see here below, you have, okay, draw a style sans serif, width, extreme width, weight, very bold, contrast, very low. And it gives you a text, which is great because it's like you don't even have to think about
think
the text.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I invite you to set up a deadline because I always say like, okay, if you want to go from amateur to pro, you need to start treating each lettering piece or each piece of work that you do as a project. So you need to set yourself a deadline, right? In order to learn a craft and become really good at it, you need to like create projects instead of practice and just create and finish pieces, right? So back to the process. I show first the system of letter forms with the 3 simple shapes. Then I would invite them to create a briefing for themselves, decide what is it that they are going to create and what is the text they're going to illustrate. And then I show them the process of, starting to sketch that lettering piece. So I will start with 3 or 4 or more thumbnail sketches. I will show you. I have it all in my book. So it's great. It's a great tool for me to explain you this. It's like I'm giving you a workshop right here for your calligraphy masters.
Audience.
Yes. So I will start with very small thumbnail sketches. So they're very small. And they look like this a little bit. And I would try like different ways. I would just try different compositions and different letter forms. And then once I find the one that I like, I will go on to a bigger size. And then from there, I would just start improving that sketch in layers of tracing paper. Do you know tracing paper? What it is?
Of course.
Of course you do. So I use this tracing paper technique just to lay it over my first sketch, and then I start modifying things that I don't like, and I copy the things that I do like, and this is how the drawing improves. So essentially, what I do is like to explain the logic behind letter forms, the DNA of letter forms, as I call it, then find the briefing and start sketching by following a process. Which is this one I just mentioned with thumbnail sketches, sketch, and tracing paper.
Is one lettering workshop going for a day, or because usually most of my calligraphy workshops are going for 2 days at least?
Oh yeah, I mean, it depends. I normally, if I teach an in-person workshop, it would normally be like a 4-hour workshop. I have become really efficient in like kind of giving the students what they need at that stage. But of course, for instance, my lettering program, which is kind of like a lettering university, is an 8-week program, like an intensive 8-week program. And this is where, we go all the way in, like with the typographic fundamentals, and then sketching, and then digitization, which is also an interesting part of the process, but that you also need to learn, because there's a specific way to draw lettering with vectors, which is what I use to draw lettering in digital. So there's a specific technique to do that, and this is what we teach inside the program. So yes, I mean, inside my program, which also includes how to make a living as a lettering artist. So it goes all the way from I'm starting with lettering to I am creating an income with that.
We'll speak about the program, but that's a bit later. I'm sorry that I stopped you, but because I see you just start talking about it, and I have it planned for a bit later to talk about the program.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to give you like a range of like, so when it's I think for you as well, it depends. There's people who come to your workshops that are interested in like experiencing with lettering and getting that first insight, right? And there are people or students that really want to go all in. So for a beginner would be like a 4 hours workshop, and for someone who really wants to go in into lettering, it will be an 8-week program. So
at what point after you have started lettering, you started teaching people? When did you felt good enough with lettering that you could teach other people?
So I started teaching lettering, and I think we discussed this during my podcast. So I started teaching lettering like a year after starting my studio in lettering design. Okay. And for me, I remember that the first workshop that I taught was for free, because I thought, okay, I feel that I can teach this to people, that I have a few fundamentals and techniques that I can share and that are useful. But I don't know anybody, because I was living in Berlin at that time. I was new to the city. And yes, and it was like, I don't have any connections, and I don't know anybody. So I'm not sure people would sign up. So I just offered the workshop for free, and people signed up. They came to the workshop. They left really, I would say, happy and enlightened. And that gave me the first feedback of like, okay, I think I can bring some value to these people. And I can teach someone this at the stage they are and at the stage I'm currently at. And from that point on, I didn't stop teaching lettering. And like, this experience is also led to write a book about it, which is this one I was showing. I think that is what kickstarted a lot of things for me. For a long time, I was teaching as a side project, and now it's more, as the years pass by, I'm doubling more and more into that. Yeah.
For example, in calligraphy, there could be a variety of workshops. You can attend a workshop for black letter, unshell, Roman, whatever. And my question is there such variety of workshops that you can teach? And if so, how many different lettering workshops are you teaching?
Yeah, that's interesting. So throughout my experience teaching workshops, I taught a lot of different workshops. So the first one I offered was creating lettering, essentially like teaching the technique and my personal approach to that. Then with the time, I started offering different lettering styles. So I had like a script lettering workshop, which is, as I mentioned before, script lettering is the one that is inspiring calligraphy. So are those connected letter forms. In calligraphy and handwriting. And then I also offer black lettering workshops. I don't think I offered serif lettering workshop or things like this. But I do teach and cover all of the styles, because there is a variety of styles in lettering. You can draw a letter form in so many different ways, but there's umbrella styles, as you said, in calligraphy, the same. You have these umbrella styles that then expand onto other styles. So for fracture lettering, you have fracture, but then you have like black letter and all. I'm not sure I'm saying this correctly, but inside this style of calligraphy, you have different approaches according to different models according to the time in history. So the same happens with lettering.
Is there a specific lettering style that's your favorite, that you prefer to use when you're drawing and you prefer to teach?
Yes, I mean, I am a big fan of. So yeah, I think script lettering is like my fave, I've done also a fair amount of script lettering. If you look at my work, is it's a big percentage of script lettering, and it's one of these things that I feel where I feel that the lettering world or the letter form world keeps expanding, because with script lettering you can go really far, and just with one style you can go really far, and there's always something to discover. So I would say, just back to your question, I would say script lettering is the one thing I taught the most, and is the one of the most complex ones to nail. I don't know in calligraphy what is the style, or the calligraphic
Script.
style script it is. Yeah.
I mean, no, like, because it's called scripts or hands, like fonts. In calligraphy, it's not font, it's either a script or you can call it also a hand. But I think you're asking me which is the hardest one?
Yeah, which one is the one that is like the hardest, or like the...
Well, from all the podcasts and people that I have asked, I guess it is Roman capitals.
Roman capitals. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is what the majority of people are telling me.
Interesting.
Yeah. Once you started the journey of lettering, like, how did you monetize it? How did you make it also your profession? Like, what are the ways that people can make money with lettering?
I love this question, and I can speak about this forever. So there's a myriad of ways of doing making an income with lettering, and I would say that one of my biggest assets as a lettering artist is that I've tried most of them. I've tried really almost the whole umbrella, or the whole rainbow of ways of doing income with my lettering skills. I have tried them. I have started a line of products and an online shop. I have licensed my work for brands and companies. I have created one-to-one client work. I have sold digital products, knowledge products, anything you mention it. I have tried, and this is why I'm so passionate about it, because I think that most of those that are listening right now and are watching, they feel that they need a client to monetize their work. They need to have someone hiring them to monetize their work, but this is far from true. I think there's a lot of different ways of creating income beyond client work, and especially nowadays, where we have at the reach of our hands, we have the capability of marketing ourselves, of reaching new audiences, of starting an online shop, selling your products online, teaching what you know. There's never been a better moment to do that. And nowadays, there's tools that really facilitate this. So if you're listening or if you're watching this, know that whatever skill you have right now, you can definitely monetize it. You have the tools at the reach of your hand. Some of the tools are even for free. Things like social networks are free for you to use. And this is the way you can reach new audiences and find new customers for your products. So back to your question of what were the things that I did in the very beginning. I did like a lot of other artists do, is I started looking for clients to work for. And later on, and I started reaching out to the people that I knew. I started like spreading the voice about what I was doing. So one of the things, I get this question often, and one of the things that I often say, lettering artists or aspiring artists or calligraphers that are starting, is start telling people around you that you are doing this and that you're open for assignments, right? Tell your family, tell your friends, these are your warm client, like your warm leads, what you will call the people that you know. The people that know you are the easiest people to reach out to, and is the people that is most likely to hire you because they know you already. And once you spread your voice among the people that you know, you can move outwards. Let's say, like, you can go and search other clients, right? You can start searching for people you don't know, like approach strangers, right? Agencies or small businesses around you, or other companies, right? But you always start small with the circle that is around you, and then you start expanding, because I think what I think artists in general and creatives, they self-identify as introverts. So they are really afraid of reaching out to people and doing client outreach, right? And I can totally identify with that. I can totally resonate with that, because I was that way as well. But if you reach out first to the people you know, first you are, you know them. So you're not just talking to a stranger. And second, you feel confident speaking to them, right? And once you build that confidence with your closest circle, you can start moving outwards to people that you don't know, because you already have built confidence. You already have done your first experiences at conducting a professional project. And then you have all this confidence with you that helps you go beyond and reach out to people you don't know, right? So what I did is starting there. And I also started sharing my work often. So I started a blog on my website. I also started an Instagram account, which at that time was just starting. My God.
How
So
long ago did you start your
so
Instagram?
I think my Instagram account I started in 2012,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
So it was a long time ago. And I started also, which is really important, which oftentimes as creatives, we oversee this. I started joining local communities and reaching out to people that were on the same journey. I know that oftentimes as artists, we love being in the zone, and we love just working, like sitting down to work and focus on our art. But you will never get as far as if you do that with other people, if you join a community. So you need to find that people that are on the same journey, that are supporting you, because progress doesn't happen in isolation. And I think many of us try to make their way through putting in the hours, which is also important, putting in the hours. But getting out there, connecting with other people, starting collaborations, that's a big game changer. And it was a big game changer for me as well.
Then I have a question about clients, like the work that you've done. Can you pick one project or client, brand, whatever, that when they contacted you, you were like, you couldn't believe it and you were really excited about it?
Let me think. I guess the first professional client assignment that I had was for the New Statesman magazine in the UK. Is a widely known magazine in the UK. And they contacted me to create a cover design, which was huge at that time for me. I was doing small lettering assignments, and to create a cover, with that reach was for me big. And I remember that at that time, I received the assignment, I received the briefing, and I sat down to work for 2 days straight, just creating. It was one of my first professional assignments, so I didn't have any process to conduct a professional assignment. Nowadays, I have a pretty strict process, which is like, I will show you the sketches first, and then once that is approved, then I will move on to the digital drawing. And once that is approved, I will move on to the final. And like, I have a procedure nowadays, and I will send you the invoice afterwards. Like all the onboarding has a certain flow. But at that time, I didn't have any onboarding. I didn't have anything in place. So I just sat down to work on the cover. And 2 days later, like one day before the deadline, I sent them a design, which they hadn't seen anything from. up until that time. And luckily they liked it, because otherwise I wouldn't have made it to the deadline if they had not liked it. So yeah, but that was one of the first assignments where I thought like, ooh, I'm creating a magazine cover. This is big.
Okay, and then do you have a project client that the whole process was really stressful for you? Like something that, I don't know, that was not going according to plan and you were stressed?
Yeah. So I remember one project I created where the result wasn't as I expected. It wasn't at my to my standards, let's say. And I
Okay.
actually asked them not to put my credit in the project. Yeah, it went really sideways. I normally don't blame the client. Nowadays, I'm really empathetic with the client. I think at that time, I should have asked for more specific references to my work of what they wanted. So nowadays, what I always recommend other artists is that when a client contacts you and they want to hire you, that you ask them for references of your portfolio that they resonate with, because that is a big game changer in terms of delivering something that the client is expecting, right? And at that time I didn't have that process in place. So when they hire me, I just said yes. And then it seemed that the idea they had in mind was very different from what I had in mind. And this is where the project led to something that I wasn't happy about. Of course, I delivered the project. I know that I'm providing a service, so I want to give the client what they want and need. At the same time, nowadays I get clear upfront of what the client wants. And if what the client wants is something I am ready to deliver, then I accept the assignment. And I think this is something that I would recommend anyone doing. Ask potential clients or someone contacting you to provide references from your own portfolio that resonate with what they want.
What is the majority of commissions are you getting? And is there something specific that you like, it's your favorite to do? Like, let's say you prefer doing logo designs, like logo types or whatever. Like, from all the things in lettering, what is the one thing that you love doing the most?
First, I want to say that what I love about the stage I am in my career right now is that I don't depend on client work. So I have created enough income streams in my business that allow me to not be dependent on client work. So that gives me a privileged position in terms of what are the commissions that I take on and what are the ones that I decline. So I would say that at this point, it has to have two conditions, at least one of them, from two conditions, at least one of them, either be a very interesting project that I'm interested in doing and that it will add something to my portfolio. And second, have a budget that aligns with my expectations. So I'm able to choose when a project doesn't comply with these two conditions, then I'm able to decline it because I have other ways of making a living as a lettering artist. But I would say that the ones that I have accepted the most in the last years are logotype design and kind of custom lettering work for a specific purpose. So for instance, last year I took on a commission from Adobe, which I also created. This one on the back, I also created for Adobe right there. But that was several years back. But last year they contacted me again to create a custom artwork for their community influencers. And yes, and they assigned me with total creative freedom. And I totally took that assignment on. So that was one of the latest I have taken. And then yeah, I would say logotype design is also a big one.
At what point in your life you decided that you have to create a book? Was it like you couldn't find the lettering book that you were satisfied with, or what led to this book, and how long it took to start to finish the book?
The book was a great example of one of those projects in which you feel that you have to bring this to life. I felt that after years of teaching lettering workshops, I had developed a system that was efficient, that was good for my students, that got my students results. I know many successful lettering artists that are working nowadays as lettering artists that came to one of my workshops. And when I go to a lettering conference, I can recognize each one of them. And that is a great gift. I love it. I love being part of their journey. And at that time, I realized like, hey, I have this skill of enabling someone through the tools that I have and the information that I have, enabling them to do something that they love. So I decided to put this onto a, like inside a book. And I started working on this book project on my own. Like I just had this idea. I started structuring the project even before having a publisher for it. And I remember that I was at a conference once, and I was chatting with a colleague of mine, and he said like, look, that's the editor of, or the owner of Verlag Hemmerschmidt, which is a big art, design and art book publisher here in Germany. And I just went straight at him, and I pitched my book in 2 minutes. And and I gave him my phone number, and he called me, and we had a meeting, and we signed a contract, and we published the book. Like it was, I was so convinced about the project that that I could sell it very well. And if this is something that I can also share with your audience, is that if you believe in what you do, if you are engaged with the project that you're doing, it's the easiest sell you can do. If you believe in what you're doing, if you believe that I believe that this could change the life of a lot of artists out there. And I really believed it. And because I believed it, they also, like the publisher also bought the idea. So I think that's the easiest sell you can do, is when you really believe in something that in a project or in a product that you're creating. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is how the work came to life. Afterwards, we signed the contract. Actually, when I signed the contract, I was pregnant, like 7 months pregnant. So I had my baby, and I started writing the book in the nights. Like I was taking care of my baby, and in the nights I was just working on the book. I have even pictures of me working with the baby, like sleeping here and just writing the pages of the book. Yeah, and it took, like, I would say, a year to get published. So from the moment we signed the contract, we published it exactly a year after.
Who is this book for?
So this book is for anyone who wants to dive into the world of letter forms. And I think it is a great introduction to what I said before, to understanding this world, because I think that for many out there, and I can speak to myself, for myself, that when I approach the world of letter design, I felt it was almost like a science. I felt very much an outsider. I thought I would never get this. And I think that is the case of many people out there that wants to give lettering a try, and that they feel like they would never get there, right? And I think what this book does, and I also heard that from other readers, is that it gives you a very soft entrance into the world of letter forms. And I think my fascination for the world of letter forms shines through and kind of engages the reader. And of course, it not only lets you by the hand into the world of lettering, but also it teaches you like the foundations. and how to get started, and then how to create something, or how to create a lettering piece, and how to digitize it, and how to publish it, like how to turn it in, and how to even make a living with it. It also shows you what I mentioned before, the process of conducting a professional project with a client. So I think it really takes you in the journey of a lettering artist just starting to a lettering artist making a living from it, which is exactly the journey that I did.
You're so good at, like, you already saw that, like that was a good selling of the book.
I
In
want to
this
tell
case,
you, like, if you believe in something, it's an easy sell. For me, this book is an easy sell. I can talk for hours and you will go buy it right away.
is this the best book for lettering available in the world?
Look,
It's a yes or no. It's a simple question. Is there a better book? If yes, which is this better book? There is nothing wrong to say, yes, this is the best book, you know? I wouldn't judge. I don't think anyone is supposed to judge.
You know what? I always say to my students and the people I coach is that the best way to speak about yourself is to have other people speak about you. And I have to say that the readers call it the Bible of lettering. That's what I have to say. So and I love that because I can sell the book and I really believe in the project. And at the same time, I've seen it changing lives. So and readers seem to believe that as well.
How much is the book and where can people buy it?
So the book is, I think right now is $29, I believe, something between $20 and $30. You can find it on martinaflor.com / golden secrets of lettering, or you can go to thegolden-secrets-of-lettering.com and it will redirect you to my website. And you can find it also in 6 different languages. So it's in English, French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and Japanese.
Okay, what?
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Well, I mean, as I told you, like, yeah, when a project is good, it goes a long way.
Is it that you decide to translate in certain language, or is it people contacting you and saying, oh, let's translate this to my language?
Yeah, it was licensed for several languages. So when the book was published, it was initially published in German, and then the license was sold for several different languages.
Okay. And what about if I want to make the book in Bulgarian? What's the process? Or
Well,
it's
you
not
can,
possible?
yeah, you can license the book and publish it.
How does this happen? Do I have to contact the publisher?
Yes. So you have to
Okay.
talk to the publisher and license the rights to publish the book in Bulgarian. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that sounds like fun. I'll check
Yeah.
into it. Okay, I want to speak about some, like, we have a few more topics. I hope you're okay with the time.
Yes.
Something that we spoke last time on your podcast, as I mentioned, like, I'm a one-man show, and you told me you were a one-woman show. Like, at what moment you realize that you cannot do the things yourself, and how do you find the right people to work with you?
I think that's a very relevant question. And I think, and of course, I do have experience. I know that it's a tough step to make for many creatives, especially for many of us who are really involved with their work and are personally involved with their work. When you start outsourcing things, or when you think about hiring someone, you feel like you need to, like, leave to some other person the control over the result and the work, right? Which is true. You have to, in a way. Yeah. So the first thing that I did, or my first hire, was on the things and I didn't like doing, and that I felt that someone else could do it better, which at that time I was, when I was one-woman show. I was filing my taxes myself. I was taking care of the paperwork. So I hired someone to do that. And here's another lesson, which I want to share with your audience. Oftentimes we think that hiring someone means hiring an expert full-time, and that's far from the truth. You can hire someone and teach them the job and have that person working for a few hours and being a great help for you. So the first person that I hired who helped me with the administrative tasks of my business, she used to be my babysitter. And I saw in her, she was so organized, so on time with everything, so respectful. And I saw her attitude and I thought that's exactly what you need to do bookkeeping, to do the administrative work. And I invited her to work a few hours in my studio, and she worked for me for four years. So oftentimes it's more about seeing the attitude in someone rather than having someone or hiring an expert, right? So keep that in mind, because I think that's one of the things that holds many creatives back from hiring or doing their first hire. They think that they have to hire someone full-time, so that's a salary per year, per month, and it has to be an expert. No, you don't have to do that. If you find someone with the right attitude that is willing to learn the job, you can hire that person for a few hours. So that was the first hire I did. Then I hired someone else to help me develop a new line of business, which at the time was my shop or my online shop. So I developed a new line of products with that person. And yes, and at the same time, I just had a baby. So I felt that it was the right time for me to ask for help, because I had a huge project in my hands, which was my new baby. And from that point on, it became easier. So one of the toughest, and this is the last hire I'm going to speak about, like one of the toughest hires that I did was a designer doing my job. So which is like someone actually putting, before I had always hired people doing satellite work or work that was around the work that I was doing, but I had full control of the creative the artwork and everything else. But at some point we grew as a studio and we had a lot of client assignments, and I had an intern. And after he was with us for 6 months, I hired him full time, and he started doing, and he's working up until the date with me. So he came in as an industrial designer, again, no experience at all in doing lettering, but he had the right attitude. He wanted to learn. He listened to me and what I had to share with him, and he learned the craft with me. And nowadays we are like one working. Like he knows exactly how the things should go, and we are a very good team working on client projects, but also in other projects that we carry on, like our online academy.
You're not doing anything anymore. You have people doing everything for you.
Sometimes I do take part of the project. I wish I would have people doing all the work. Not at all, but I will get there.
Of course, I'm sure.
Yes, but I think that what I liked about that experience of hiring the designer is that I just take on the parts of the project that I think are really crucial in terms of determining the direction or the storytelling. But then the technical aspect of like placing the points exactly where they should be, or preparing the file and all that stuff is something that you can totally outsource, and that I don't necessarily enjoy as a lettering artist. So that's a big learning of my hiring experience or my experience at hiring.
How many people consist out of your team at the moment?
Yeah, so we don't work all of us full time, including me. I work 25 to 30 hours a week. But so there's the designer, Elias, Carla, which is our education lead. We have Romina now, who is our VA. And that's pretty much it. And then there's Jasim, who takes care of all the administrative work.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much it.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I see, you have a really nice hat. I really love your hat. Can you tell me a bit more about this?
So we are trying new swag for our academy. And this is one of the first ones. Like we, this ampersand that you see here has become a little bit of like a brand, like part of our branding.
I was thinking because I see two ampersands behind you. It's even three, maybe the small one I just see. And then last time I saw, like, is this a logo or something?
Well, kind of. If you, let me see if I can show you. So it all started with this ampersand that you see on the wall there. Let me see if you can. Yeah.
Whoa.
So we have, when we moved into the studio, we created this. We created this mural, and then when we started recording videos and recording online classes and our courses, everything happened with that background or backdrop. And it started to, it just gradually became part of our branding. And this is why now is part of this. I have a mug, I have a few things that we have tried. And I think we are gonna release this in an online shop soon.
When is this? Soon?
Soon. I will keep you posted.
Okay. So yeah, I did this on her podcast. I wanted to plug my shirts and of course spoke about the hat, and I did it. I'm doing it again. Guys, as you see, I'm running. This is something I created today. It's still in progress. It's not released yet, but those t-shirts are released, and those are 99. 99 it's a limited edition of 99 t-shirts, and they're with the alphabet, the last alphabet, which is not still on the shirt, but yeah, you can check on calligraphymasters.com on the shop if you're interested. The support will mean a lot.
Yeah,
So,
and they're beautiful also.
Well, about the clothing, something that when I was in Berlin, Tioswan told me, it's like, this is not a direction you should focus, like clothing. And because I did for the anniversary clothing, I did a photo session, like a proper clothing brand. So he was like, this is not cool. And I was like, okay, Tioswan is very important to me. And of course, the feedback of every crew member, it's important, but he's more important than the rest. And I was like, okay. So I'm not gonna spam Calligraphy Masters, but at the same time, I love creating those clothing. It's fun for me, and something that I don't know if people don't know. Everything that I produce, I do it with a lot of care, and I try to produce the highest quality of products. Some prices are not for everybody, but this is not because I'm trying to take your money. It's because the products that I'm creating are the highest quality.
Yeah, and I think that is also the result of like you having built that community. I think that this wouldn't have come across, this ampersand, this cap wouldn't have come across if we weren't if we hadn't built the community that we have inside our academy, where we already feel like, hey, we should have something to wear that shows the world that we are part of this group, like, so I think that these are the result, as well as the swag for Calligraphy Masters, are the result of a bigger movement that is behind. The swag doesn't come first. The community comes first, and then you need something to identify yourself with.
This is so nice said. I'm really happy you said it. Okay, I have 2-3 more questions. Like, first is I didn't mention in the intro, but in the speaking, we mentioned a couple of times. You have your own podcasts.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit more about your podcast? Like, maybe people would love to join it. What's about, how it started, and what are the majority of guests on your podcast?
Yeah, so my podcast is called Open Studio. And you can find it on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. So we publish also the episodes on YouTube, like you do, Milen, and the podcast. In the podcast, I share strategies and tactics to build a career as a graphic artist, lettering artist, illustrator, creative in some kind or way, calligraphers, and I also invite. From time to time, I invite guests from the letter world. So I invited, of course, Milen to be on the pod, and I have invited many other lettering artists and calligraphers to the podcast as well. Just to what I try to do in those interviews is uh, to find out how they achieve what they have achieved. And what I think is great about that is that listeners can see how this is regular people
Of
that
course.
this is people that have gone through the same struggles that they are going through, that have self-doubt, that have experienced imposter syndrome, and I think that humanizes them and also at the same time encourages listeners to take action and to go for it, because if they can do it, you can do it too. So that's what I love about bringing guests on the podcast. And then at the same time, I love sharing tactics and techniques like the ones I shared throughout this episode as well. That is like, okay, if you want to hire, start by someone like, someone that works for you 3 hours a week or something, a friend or a colleague. If you want to sell something, or if you need to develop your skills in selling your projects to clients, be really in love with the project. Like I'm in love with the golden secrets of lettering and I can sell it very well. Like I give these tactics in like bite-sized pieces that are like short episodes that you can just consume in 9 minutes to 20 minutes, and give you like outreach techniques, like client outreach techniques, or portfolio building techniques, or monetizing your work. So you can go check it out. In fact, right now I'm publishing a series of short episodes that answer the 10 most frequently asked questions about lettering and getting started with lettering. So if you're interested in lettering, I recommend you to go check it out. It's called,
Uh,
again, Open Studio Podcast.
as everything else that Martina mentioned in this episode, guys, I'll try to link everything in the description. So once the podcast is over, you can check the description for links to the book, to the podcast, and everything else.
Amazing.
Uh, I want to speak about a little bit about the lettering program that you started speaking earlier.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I guess this is your latest project that you're working on. So can you tell me how did you decide to make it, what's about, and when it's coming out, and who is it for, of course?
Yeah, I love that you asked this, really, because in fact, we haven't agreed to speak about anything, or I didn't ask you to speak about anything in particular, but I love that you touch on these things, because I think that you and me, we both do things that we wish we have had when we started. I remember
Yes.
that in the podcast when I had you as a guest, you were saying like, I started the calligraphy masters channel because when I started with calligraphy, I didn't have any resources. I didn't know where to start. So I created this place where people can get started and learn. And I kind of go about uh my life and the things that I create the same way. So the book is really like the one thing that I wish I had when I started. And the same with the lettering seminar, which is a program that I run yearly. So I created, in a way, the program that I wish I have had when I started with lettering. Unfortunately, at that time, I had to like experience a lot of different stuff and try things that were totally unrelated, just to find my way into what I wanted to do. And I created this program just to have in one way, in one place, the whole journey of like learning lettering, getting started, all the way to creating a portfolio and making a living as a lettering artist, which is what I did throughout the past 13 years. So I have
Is it
compiled, yeah.
is it only you who is teaching in this program, or?
No, it's not. So I am the main instructor, but we also have guest instructors. This year, I'm putting together a dream team of instructors, which I'm not gonna reveal just now.
Okay, at
But
least how many are all the people in this team?
so we are about 6 people that are
Okay.
supporting the program, and it's a live program. So we go together throughout the program in 8 weeks, and it's a combination of pre-recorded lessons that you can go back to whenever you want, and live sessions. So Q&As and studio hours and a community behind, like all of the support that you need to learn a skill like or a craft like lettering. You have it inside the program, and I'm so freaking proud of what I created, because as I said before, I think the biggest reward that I can have as an educator is to see someone going from I have no idea what to do, how to get started, to see them go out months later or a year later and be confident about their work and be pursuing work as a lettering artist. And many of the students that I have had work nowadays as professional lettering artists. So I'm so proud of being able to facilitate that for them. So yeah, as you can tell, another project I really believe in, and therefore I can sell it very well.
Okay, I see, like you said, you don't want to say names of the people. So this is fine. Give me at least one name. Let's excite people so they're like, oh, I want to go. Give me one name that to make them excited and wanna attend.
So one of the people that are gonna be in the program, I named in this show, and
Is it Ken?
uh, and it has been the Kickstarter of the lettering industry for many. So that's all I'm gonna say.
It is Ken. Oh
That's all
my
I'm gonna
God.
say.
This is so cool.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Awesome.
And yes,
When
and
it's happening?
all of these the instructors are like incredible. So I'm just mentioning that one because I mentioned the person in this show, but I'm not gonna reveal anymore. If you want to find out more, you can just I will give you updates on Instagram and on my newsletter. So this is
Guys,
starting this is called the Lettering Seminar for those that are interested. You can go to theletteringseminar.com,
how many
and
websites do you have?
the Lettering Seminar is the program. So the Lettering Seminar.
Yeah, but
And
because you mentioned a bunch of different for the book here, for this, like how many websites do you own?
I do own a bunch of websites. Yeah.
This is like since I met you, like you've been inspiring me in different ways, but I really like the hustle in you, the entrepreneur. Like it's super inspiring. I really love it.
Oh, I thank
I
you.
yeah, it's super cool.
Thank you. And I think also, Milen, you are an entrepreneur. What you have built with Calligraphy Masters, if I may, give back that compliment, is amazing. And I know that there's a lot of work that goes behind it, and that your listeners and audience right now um, perhaps don't realize and totally appreciate, I can imagine. But there's a lot of work and compromises and organization. So yeah, I just want to uh yeah tell you that I appreciate that very much, because of people like you that take that step to share what they know with other people, to facilitate the way or to pave the way for others. It's a big compromise, it's a big bet. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, my last question is there a tip that you received throughout your career that helped you the most? And if you share it now, it will help other people.
I'm gonna take a minute to think.
Of
I should
course.
have an answer for this question. I bet I have a bunch of them. Um, I think one of the biggest, and that I continue to give, or to give as well to my own students and to the artists and creatives that I work with, is, and all your audience that is listening and watching right now, is that you don't know until you try, and that until you don't really, because you hear a lot of different things from a lot of different experiences of people. You probably have around you artists or creatives that have not had a good experience at pursuing the work that they love, or that they have settled down. So you asked me what is one thing that I learned, and
that helped you the most?
yes. So I remember that one of my teachers, when I studied that 1 year in The Hague, Eric van Blokland is called, used to tell me, I used to speak about my plans on how things should look like. And he used to always tell me, like, just draw it. Draw it first and see if it works. And I think this lesson really had made a lot of sense in a lot of different things. So, you can plan about things. You can, in your mind, you can think about how this is going to work out, or whether this is going to work out or not. But until you don't do it and you don't try, you don't really know. So that applies to your art. So until you don't draw it, you don't know if it works or not. And also to your life, until you don't try it, whatever it is that you want to try. If you want to give lettering a try, if you want to give calligraphy a try, if you want to start your own business and give that a try, you don't really know until you try. And that is one lesson that has played a big role in my career and in making the things that I have created throughout the years, and that I will always recommend everyone trying. And to stop overthinking and just doing it.
Awesome. I think this is a great tip. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button. Comment below which was the most interesting part of Martina's story. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Martina, I want to thank you for being guest on the podcast. It's been a huge pleasure to learn more about you, about the way you think and you take action on things. And in general, it was a pleasure to listen to your story. Thank you for being guest on the podcast.
Thank you, Milen. It was a pleasure talking to you, and and sharing stories and lessons with your audience.
Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, keep writing. Okay. Done. Wow.
Amazing, Milen. That was a really nice flow. I love it.
Yeah, it went very naturally.